Welcome, pilots, to another video where we're going to discuss the online multiplayer inside of DCS World. Today on this video, I'm going to be interviewing the 104th Squadron, and our special guests that are joining us are 104th Maverick, 104th Bullet, 104th Titanfire, and my close friend, Ananity. In this video, we're going to discuss the new multiplayer mission that's included on the 104th server, and it is called Desert Warrior. I have done a couple of these videos already with Gray Flag as well as Blue Flash, and the reason I do these videos is because I want to spread awareness to the community about the server, because I do thoroughly enjoy flying on these servers. So enough chit chat, let's go into the video and discuss the new persistence technology on the new mission, Desert Warrior. Well, we can get started. So again, appreciate the 104th joining us today. We have 104th Maverick, which is the boss man, 104th Bullets, and 104th Titan. If you guys want to briefly describe who you are and who the 104th Phoenix Squadron is.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. This is an honor.
Well, no, I appreciate all of you joining us today. Maverick, do you want to tell us who you are real quick?
Yeah, so I am 104th Maverick. I served as the squadron leader for just over 7 years, and now I serve on the kind of upper echelons of command. I take a back seat these days and let the younger kids take the beach while I put my feet up. I've been part of the squadron since 2010 is when I joined, so just going on 13 years, nearly 14 years I've been a member of the squadron for, and in that time I've just done my best to try and represent and kind of live the squadron motto of excellence, honour and integrity, and I think we've provided a good platform to the public for the squadron's actually been going since 2005. The squadron was incarnated 5 years before I actually joined. A lot of people kind of mistakenly think that I created the 104th. I do get that an awful lot, but no, I'm proud to say that the 104th was a raging success before I ever found out about it. And I joined a long list of very distinguished pilots with a history that goes back to 2005, and yeah, proud to be here. We've had a dedicated server since 2005, and we've tried to bring a great platform to the community, and what we're going to talk about today just takes a big step towards the next evolution in that dedicated server and the product that we provide for the community. And
awesome.
Probably all from me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Maverick. We also have 104th Bullet, who is the, I believe you're the XO.
Yeah, they call me XO now. It's just help out with the leadership stuff where I can. 104th Fallen is our commander right now, and he takes on all the hard stuff, and I try to fill in where I can. But good Lord, I found DCS, I think 6 years ago, something like that, and about a year in, I found the 104th. Started flying on the server with the guys. I had so much fun, and they were just got along with them really well and that stuff. Continued on and eventually joined the squadron, and just trying to help out where I can and having a fun time.
I've seen your whole journey. You used to fly.
Yeah.
You used to fly with me, and then you left me.
Yeah, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks into DCS, I think I found the 99th where you were flying, you and Green and other guys, and just kind of took off from there.
Yeah. And then, so thanks, Bullet, for joining us. And we also have Titanfire, and I don't know your rank, unfortunately, Titan, so I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I don't think I have one, truthfully.
Okay.
We don't really go in for that in a big way. There's just certain positions that have certain responsibilities. Yeah, so one for the Titanfire. Kind of, I suppose, what's the easiest way to describe it? I first started playing with Lock-On Modern Air Combat, Lomac Gold, in 2006. So had lots of fun with the A10A back then. Started playing DCS proper 2011, kind of on and off with a couple of friends, and then came across the 104th server, I think, in 2014, after attending an air show in the UK. And that just got me back into virtual aviation. Joined the 104th, I think it was the following year, and yeah, I'm kind of helping out on the technical side of things these days.
Nice. Well,
yeah, he's our programming guru, so that should be an official title now, I think.
Yeah.
Programming Guru Titanfire.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I put that in the show notes. Well, welcome, the 104th guys. I also have Ananity here, or Danny, the Swedish chef. That's what we call him. So he's here to help me out, run the show a little bit. So welcome, Nanny.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Nanny.
Hey guys.
Great to see you, dude.
Likewise.
So you did say you started back in 2005 with the 104th server, or was that when the 104th became together? So when did the 104th server actually start up?
Yeah, so the 104th was incarnated, like I mentioned previously, in 2005. It came from the collapse of a previous squadron called the 169th. The squadron was formed by a core member of people from that squadron that left. The two founders are Ed Manowar and Paul Polecat. Those are our two owners of the squadron, essentially. So those guys own the squadron. They're kind of right at the top, and then I report to them, and then 104 Fallen reports to me, Bullet reports to Fallen, and then so down through the ranks where we have flying instructors and things. So yeah, it was born from the death of the 169 squadron, and right from the word go, one of the big things that they wanted to focus on was providing a good platform to the community to fly in, because I know that the 169th had a server for people. So right from the word go, the 104th had a server right from its very incarnation. So yeah, we've been providing a dedicated server that's been open pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since 2005. So nearly, nearly 20 years of providing a platform for people to fly in.
They had computers back then?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it because it's always been one of my favorite servers to join, and I've been flying on it since I think 2016. I can't remember how long it was, but that was on DCS, I believe 1.4 or 1.5. I don't remember how long ago that was, but that was when we had two different versions of, DCS 1.5 and then DCS 2.0 alpha.
That's right.
Version, if you guys remember that.
Was that the dumpster fire one?
There was a lot of dumpster fires. If you really want to discuss that.
No, let's not go there. Let's not go there.
We love you, Wags.
Yes. But I think Nanny has an excellent question that he wants to talk about.
Yeah, so since you guys have been, along with the ride for a long time, I'm just curious how you guys feel like how the DCS missions have evolved over the time.
That's a great question. That's kind of the reason where we find ourselves today, is because we've got left behind, essentially. We didn't do a good enough job at keeping up with some of the other community content creators with regards to missions, and which is the main reason why we created this mission that we're talking about today for the server. So for a very long time we had a very successful recipe, essentially, that we brought to the community, where we would have a stable dedicated server that had static target areas. It was very linear in its progression, very easy to follow. Wasn't a lot of dynamic elements to the server. It also wasn't persistent, which was the biggest thing that we've seen change over the years. There's so many talented people have come into the DCS community and brought these fantastic dynamic missions into the fold for the multiplayer people to get their teeth into, and we've seen that evolve over the years, especially since the launch of the dedicated server, that with maybe one or two exceptions, that's the most popular servers in the community, all feature semi-dynamic to dynamic missions that are persistent. So when the server restarts, all the progress from the last session is all saved, which is where we found ourselves today after a disgusting amount of hard work from Titanfire this year, who has managed to develop something that we are calling our PDC, our Phoenix Dynamic Campaign Scripting, which is something I'll let Titanfire just chime in a little bit more in a second and give you guys some more information. But the short story is, we've never had persistence on our server. So any mission that we've ran, any progress that users have made throughout that mission doesn't get saved when the server restarts. So when the server restarts, it's just either a completely brand new mission or the same mission again back from the start. And you guys can appreciate that can get a little bit boring after a while. So Titanfire's went away and really knuckled down and done some incredible work to develop a persistent script, a bespoke persistent script. We haven't taken an off-the-shelf one. He's developed this right from scratch. And that's what we're using now on this latest mission that we're bringing to the server. So long story short, again, all the progress that happens in the mission is now saved, and when the server restarts, it rebuilds the mission from the last save point. So we've went on a journey from providing non-dynamic, non-persistence missions that we ran for years, we got left behind when the community started developing more dynamic and persistent missions, and this is our attempt at bringing a dynamic and persistent mission into the DCS multiplayer community.
That's a excellent answer. I really like that. So appreciate all the hard work going into it, because I love the 104 server, and there's always some great missions to go along. And I haven't tested out the new mission yet, but I'm going to be doing that a little bit later today, so I can't wait to get into it.
Oh, you'll enjoy it.
I've actually taken a sneak peek, and I've seen the new areas, and I haven't really tried it either. But I know that you guys were sort of notorious with the. I know you guys had like some sort of statistic roster available, and that was going on for some time. I'm just curious if that's something that's going to come back, or.
Yeah, we are working on that, and as you know, DCS scoring isn't as accurate as it can be. We actually have our own software that's going to pull data off and be able to supply that to our own website. Some of the other servers have something like that. We had it in the past, and we're bringing that back online. So that should be online fairly soon. I can't give an exact date on it, but we're working on it.
So 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Hashtag.
So the reason we want you to come over here and give us a little interview here is because you did develop a new mission. So if you can talk about briefly what the mission's called, where it's located, and I heard you describe it as if it was like Enigma server and somebody else's server had a baby or something. So if you want to take away and talk about what the new mission is.
It was a three-way that.
Sorry, it was a
Mav
three-way.
Yeah, I think we're kind of hummed and hawed about that. But yeah, so the new mission is called Operation Desert Warrior. It is featured in the Syria map, and the way that I described it was if Blue Flag, Grey Flag, and Enigma had a threesome, this would be the baby that came out. So we've taken inspiration from. More specifically, Enigma and Grey Flag to create something that more or less aligns with our philosophy of what we've tried to bring to the public for years, which is a high intensity PvP environment that features some of the best aspects of some of these other incredible DCS servers that we now have available to the community. So essentially, what it is a mission that's been designed to promote PvP combat as much as possible, but also bring that element of the success that Grey Flag's seen, the success that Enigma's seen, and also the success that the Blue Flag server's seen, where you have that incremental progression with regards to the air-to-ground campaign. So the mission itself features 4 different target areas for both sides, red and blue, and within each of these target areas there are several different sectors that have to be cleared, and you get a lot of basically graphical indication from the F10 map for where the target area is located and which targets within that target area, which sectors specifically have to be cleared for the mission progression to go on. And again, coming back to all the hard work that Titanfire done, it wouldn't have been possible to develop something like this unless we had the persistence aspect of it. So this enables us to build the biggest mission that we've ever had in the Squadron's history since 2005. This is by far the largest mission. Just Pip's Operation Longbow that we brought to the fold, which seems like a lifetime ago now. This mission is bigger in scale than Operation Longbow, so the persistence really helps maintain that dynamic aspect of it, and just gives the client something to come back to once they've spent 30 minutes, an hour, 2 or 3 hours working hard, destroying ground targets and clearing objectives. They can come back the next day and all that work's still going to be saved, and they can take advantage of progressing the mission.
That's awesome. And so there's 8 total combat boxes, correct?
Correct, yeah.
That can be captured, and then I'm assuming once you capture the last one, the mission ends and it restarts. Exactly,
yeah. So the way that we have designed the mission is specifically to take advantage of some of the geographical positioning within the Syria map. Now, obviously the Syria map is not fictional. It's based on a real place, so we can't do something like other games, for example, Battlefield, where you can set up a map where everything with regards to the distances to the targets are completely equal because it's made on a fictional map. But what we found is a nice little pocket in the Syria map where the distances from the red main bases and the blue main bases pretty much marry up to equidistant. So the distance from the blue main base to bullseye is the same distance from the red main base to bullseye, and that echoes all the way down to the different target boxes as well. So we've tried to bring something that's as fair as possible in terms of not giving one side an advantage in the air to ground war by having them based closer to the fight than the side that they're fighting against. And again, this all comes back to just really try and encourage the PvP aspect of what we're trying to do. We've always had a reputation for a high intensity PvP environment, and that's what we've really tried to push through with Operation Desert Warrior, is providing that equidistant platform so that people can get airborne, fly for the same amount of time, and they're going to be engaging each other around about the bullseye area.
Awesome. And is there any aircraft restrictions or weapon restrictions if anybody has not come to the server yet, if they have to experience that?
There's not, no, though. So again, one of the things that we do differently from most of the servers in the community is that except from the Russian FC-3 aircraft, we have all the aircraft available in the sim on both sides. So on red and blue, you can choose the same aircraft that you're going to be fighting against. And the reason why we do that, again, it comes back to our ethos of we're trying to provide a high intensity PvP environment. And I know that a lot of people maybe feel out of their comfort zone when they have F-16s, for example, on blue and F-16s on the red side, because it's nice to look at your RWR and see that there's an F-16 and know straight away that, well, that's on the blue side and that's on the red side. So it does force people to work a little bit harder in terms of developing their situational awareness and not just relying solely on the radar warning receiver as an IFF device. You have to work a little bit harder to IFF threats, and that's one of the biggest things that we do differently from a lot of platforms in the community, and that is again to promote just a high intensity PvP environment where you can have 10 F-15 Strike Eagles going up against another 10 F-15 Strike Eagles, rather than having 20 F-15 Strike Eagles only on the blue side taking on a red side that is severely outnumbered because all the sexy jets are available on just one coalition.
Right. So I did have a question here, and it is about SRS and in-game voice. Now, I know everybody uses simple radio, so can you discuss what people need to use for your server, and have you thought about using in-game voice in the future, or if you've heard anything about that? Because I haven't heard anybody using it for server side yet.
It's a little bit early days. The long-term plan is to use the DCS radio essentially, but at the moment there is a requirement to have SRS to be able to fly on the server. But long-term down the road, once Eagle Dynamics work out the bugs and the teething pains with getting the DCS radio to work, then once that's up to scratch, then we'll transition to that. At the moment, there's just too many little problems with not having full control over, for example, force and push to talk, and some different admin tools that we would like to see before we fully roll out the DCS radio on the server. So at the moment, SRS is still a requirement for users to fly in the server. Okay,
cool. And we do have some questions for Titanfire here in just a moment, but I do want to ask Bullet here. Bullet, what kind of ground units or SAM sites or whatever is out there, wildlife, can we expect in this mission?
I know you had asked me that because I enjoy building good SAM systems that are challenging for everybody.
Exactly.
But this is out of the crazy mind of Maverick though, this mission. But I think he thought about me a little bit when he made it, because the time that I've spent on it so far, we have SA2s, SA3s, 6s, 13s, 15s, 11, Patriot on the blue side. Actually, all the SAMs that you have on blue are located there. So it is a challenge when you first open up a new sector for SAMs. So you're going to have to do your seed runs. Once that's done, then it opens up for more just dedicated ground attack. But one of the things we really try to do in the server is make it fun for everybody coming in, whatever they want to do. If they want to do suppression of the defenses seed, if they want to just do close air support ground attack, or go in an Apache and just do air to ground, or if they want to just go air to air. And if you want to just go air to air and shoot down as many bad guys as you can find, you can go on red air or blue air and go over to the enemy side and attack their ground forces or their ground strikers and attack their fighters. Or you can do a mixed role where you're doing air to ground and then like an F-18, F-16, doing some air to ground, and then bandits show up, then you have to switch over to air. So we try to make the mission available to everybody, make it
basically
giving
something
you
for everybody to do.
Something for everybody, giving you every option under the sun pretty much to do in the mission.
So if you want to transport cows from one location to another, you can do that.
You have to ask Mav about the cows.
Okay.
There'll be no goddamn cows.
No, this is a Maverick mission. You'd be able to tell. The SAMs aren't too insane, and there's no cows. So
I have a quick follow-up question for Bullet there. Since we're talking about ground units, I'm just curious, is there like any AI unit you guys feel like you can't use in the game due to balance problems?
No, just about every ground unit that you can use, I think, is in here right now, and we don't really limit any ground units. The only weapon we really don't allow is the nuke. There are a couple Russian nukes that the MiG-21 can throw around, and that's one thing that we definitely don't allow on the mission.
That's literally the only weapon restriction that we have. One of the things, again, that we wanted to have as one of our USPs for the server is that we're one of the only platforms that doesn't restrict weapons. So the full suite of DCS weapons is available to the user in this new mission, Operation Desert Warrior. So there's no restrictions on air-to-air missiles, there's no restriction on air-to-ground weapons. If you want to use some of the latest weapons that we have in DCS, they are available for you in this mission, with the exception of the nuclear warhead, for reasons why I think we can all agree that is sensible and apparent.
I would agree with you, sir. I do have a question here, and I'm not sure who would answer it. It might be Titan or Mav here, but it's about persistence. And you did talk about that you haven't had a mission that had persistence, and you built this, and I know it took you several months to build this mission. Now, if somebody else out there, is trying to create a mission for a multiplayer, where would they even look for how to build a mission on persistence? Like, how challenging is it inside the DCS mission editor to do this?
I think Titanfire is probably the best person to chime in on this.
Yeah, I think that's probably a question in my direction. I suppose the easiest way to answer it is to try and describe a little bit about what this new PDC does for us. And I like to describe it as a framework rather than a script, because I think it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more kind of powerful and all-encompassing than kind of...
So it does sound complicated, not to cut you off here. Like, I'm a total idiot when it comes to this stuff, so I have no idea what you're talking about. So what is the difference between a script and...
It's Phanteks, and it's really probably not worth going into any detail, but generally a script is something that will do a task or a series of tasks, and you can do it kind of lots of times, right?
Yep.
A framework is something that's going to be a little bit more evolved and configurable. And that's really the core of what PDC does for us. It does two big things. It does persistence, which Maverick's been talking about, but it also does mission management. So it's not just about saving units and restoring them after a restart. It's about keeping tabs of where the mission is in progression, managing the F10 coloring in, things like that. And a lot of that is configuration driven. And what that means is we can tweak those parameters pretty easily, and we can apply it to other missions. So one of the real success of the 104th server over the years has been different missions, different styles, different variety. And that's what I've kind of had in mind while putting this together, is that, we're running Operation Desert Warrior now, and it will hopefully be very successful for a period, and then we'll have something else, and then we'll have something else, and we will keep evolving and growing it. And what's powering it at the moment will evolve and grow with it. And, it's all kind of this configuration driven. So that's really what I mean when I talk about framework.
Okay. And then if somebody else wanted to make... So how did you learn about this, I guess, essentially?
Yeah, so that's a really good question.
If somebody else wants to create it. Yeah,
I actually want to give a shout out here, because it was Yink that started us down this road. We had some conversations with him. I think last year is when it kind of started, and then various kind of schedules and things meant there was a big gap, and then kind of picked it up again this year. So I'm a software engineer by profession, and have wanted to kind of get into this domain for a little bit. Dabbled around with it late last year, and then rolled out the Fat Cow FARPs that have been running on our server since about January this year, I think. Got in touch with Yank, had a kind of a talk through. He showed us some ways of handling the persistence side of what I was describing a second ago. And for reference, Yank is the mastermind behind the custom coding on Enigma's Cold War and Tempest Blue Flash. So, a man in the know. You'll find lots of information similarly on the ED forums, but they can be a pain to go through. Certainly if you're not from a software engineering background, it's more of an uphill struggle, DCS and Eagle Dynamics don't necessarily make things easy. A lot of the scripting engine documentation is effectively community generated. I think Grimes is probably the one who's most on the forefront of actually writing that together. And without that community effort, it's very basic what's there otherwise. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Yes, no, that answered my question. I was Nanny had a follow-up question.
Go for it.
Yeah, I was just curious, since you guys are going to the next level here and putting more advanced scripts into the mission, how much do you take into performance? How do you manage that, since the DCS engine is probably not well known for its memory management? So is that something you guys think about when you make these missions?
Very much so, is the short answer. In my approach to it, I try to minimize as much as possible what has to happen at once. Now, there's a kind of a slight exception to that, which, again, the version we're working on at the moment, the code itself, there isn't a huge amount of overhead there. The churn with DCS comes when you want to interact with the game engine. So, for example, a target area gets cleared, and then we need to spawn another one. And when we spawn those units in, there can be a slight kind of a hiccup, a slight churn, because the DCS engine struggles under the weight of units spawning in. That's something we've noticed, in testing this PTC framework for the last few months. We've kind of had a soft launch of it on some of our classic missions to iron out some of the kinks and the quirks before really progressing to Maverick's new mission. And this sort of thing is exactly as Nanny says there, that the DCS engine itself kind of, struggles sometimes under the strain. So, yeah, there's always a conscious effort to not be trying to do too much at once. That is, as I say, one of the quirks that we're going to be ironing out in the upcoming versions. But yeah, it's never far from the forefront of the mind. How will DCS actually handle what we're trying to do?
Yeah, one of the things we really try to do is present a good product to everybody, present a fun mission to fly that performs well. We try not to get too many people in the server. We find what the limitations are in DCS and make sure we stay within those, so we don't have the crazy lag spikes that you can see in some missions. And then balancing act with how many units are displayed at one time in the mission. This software enables that to just have one area active at a time, so you don't have too many ground units slowing down the system. So we put a lot of effort, and that's kind of our marching orders that we've given to ourselves, is to make sure that we have a smooth running mission for everybody to enjoy.
Nice. And I appreciate that, because that's one of my gripes is joining a multiplayer server and there's tons of rubber banding and somebody you're chasing, you know, they end up on your 6 because they rubber band behind you and then they shoot you down. That's always a pain in the ass, but I'll digress from that.
Seen there, been there, done that.
So, you know, following on with the persistence, and when the server resets, I'm assuming it resets every 3 hours. I'm not sure how often it resets, but you can answer this here. Will the mission time continue, or does like the mission time reset? And also, is there separate weather, like a randomized weather kind of thing?
So I think I'll take a stab at that. Restarts are scheduled every 6 hours. So there's kind of been varying degrees of DCS stability over the years. And I suppose as a quick side note, I mean, it's one of the things that has been a limiting factor for DCS and multiplayer missions over the years, has been how reliable is the DCS client. And I'm sure Maverick will have nightmares when I mention the persistent client crashes that used to plague DCS in the pre-dedicated server days, when you could actually just run the server application itself. And, you know, missions tended to be just time limited based around that. It's like, hey, it might run for 6 hours, it might run for 12 hours, it might crash halfway through. It's, you know, it's kind of up to the ED gods. These days, you can get away with longer, but we find at the moment having that kind of a 6 hour interval has been pretty solid for us since doing this soft launch of PDC the last few months. On the time of day, the missions at the moment will effectively restart to what they were the first time they ran. So if it starts at 0900 after the 6 hour period, so that'll be what, 1500, it will reset back to 0900. It is a piece of functionality I intend adding, you know, in a future release, no time limit, 2 weeks, to try and support different hours of the day, so you would pick up again at 1500 and so on and so forth. And I think that's a model we've seen work well on some other servers too, so it's something that would be quite desirable. Weather though, I'm not sure what our plan is for that. Again, because we're effectively running the same mission again, whatever is set the first time around will probably be set the second time, and so on and so forth, unless it is being set as random, and I'll defer to Maverick for that.
Yeah, at the moment it's not set to random, so it's like Titanfire says, that whatever the weather's set. But it is something that, without even taking the PDC functionality, it is something that we can change. We have the option of starting the mission once the server restarts at a different time of day, and also changing the weather slightly. So that is something that the clients can look forward to in the future. Probably not going to be as varied as some of the other servers until we work it out on the PDC framework to enable that to actually do that, perhaps. But it is something that we can go in there and manually do just to keep the environment fresh and changing.
Yeah, one of our main goals on that also is to always have a good platform for people to go PvP, BVR, BFM, air-to-air fighting. And so we usually have it partly cloudy skies, daytime, because 95% of all the people want to really fight during the day, so they can operate the jet and fight the other aircraft. So that's usually where we're going to have it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for answering that. And I kind of had a question about for the future, so I'm excited to try out this new mission, and I'm assuming further down the road you're gonna come out with another map, hopefully. And if you would ask or explain if you would actually do a different map from Syria, or would like we do Sinai, or how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, 100%. Like Titanfire alluded to, that it's not just PDC's a framework that we can use in the future to export to all different types of maps. So eventually, once we kind of dial down, we're going to have a mission that's similar to Desert Warrior in terms of its persistence, maybe not its format and its presentation, but we'll have several maps on the Persian Gulf map. We'll have several different missions on the Syria. Basically all the maps, any map that's available for DCS, the long-term goal is for us to have several different missions that are persistent, that the client can come into and enjoy for several days in a row, and contribute either air-to-air or air-to-ground sorties that are going to make a difference to the client when either he or she comes back the next day, or for clients that fly in the server after they've put in their work.
Is there any plans of sort of upgrading the old missions to the new framework, or is that something already in the process?
Titan, you want to take that?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So interestingly, as I mentioned, like probably the last 3 months now, we've actually been running 3 of the classic missions upgraded to utilize PDC. So we've had Operation Desert Thunder, Operation Leopard, and Operation Arrowhead. All have been running to completion, basically. So they go through the 6-hour restarts, they'll pick up where they left off, and the player base will go through. And we're seeing in some of these classic missions the end of the TA sequence for the first time in years. Because DCS has been so unreliable that you've never been able to get to the end of the objectives.
Yeah. And something I did notice actually is that the server restart is very seamless. Usually, I've seen on some servers where you do like a full restart, but here I just see the mission restarting, and it doesn't take much effort from the client to actually, load the map again.
Yeah.
That's why I call Titan a guru.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
I think that might be an overstatement, to be fair. It's a good thing that you're having that experience, don't get me wrong. We want that to be a seamless experience for the user. Truthfully, there's nothing special going on there. It's just DCS sometimes will be, it will play ball, sometimes it won't. And, I think we're still in that phase of figuring out how much more kind of intervention we need to have around restarts and things like that. So there will be occasional server crashes. We've not experienced many of them, to be fair. As I say, this thing has been running for 2 or 3 months, and it's been almost surprisingly stable in that regard. But DCS is DCS.
Ooh, knock on wood.
You will always have these issues. So that expectation will be there, and it's something that we kind of keep tabs on and assess.
If somebody was how should I say this? If somebody wants to come join your server, like what skill level do you think is required to come to your server? So like, is this for somebody that's a novice, or somebody that has a little bit of experience, or an elitist, if you will?
Yeah. This is a question that I get a lot when I'm streaming, because I get a lot of people that have been exposed to DCS for the first time through my stream or other DCS content creators on Twitch. And I mean, the short answer is everybody, all right? But I would be lying to the viewer if I said that it's not that it's not a friendly place for new people, because our community, not just the 104th pilots, but the people that fly in our server, are very helpful. They're very friendly, they're professional, they're polite, they will help new players. But generally speaking, and I'm not trying to throw shade on any other DCS community out there, so please don't take my words the wrong way, but generally speaking, the skill level of the clients that fly on our server for air-to-air PvP is way above the sort of general standard that you find in other DCS servers. And I'm not just talking about 104th Squadron pilots. I'm talking about lone wolves and pilots that come from other squadrons in the community that enjoy flying on our server. That is the reason why they come to our server, because they know that it's going to be a PvP battle that's high intensity. So the server is for everyone. However, if you're brand new to DCS and you want to do the air-to-air portion, you're probably going to have a bit of a rough ride. You're definitely welcome to come and join us. We're not turning anyone away, but it can be pretty brutal, especially if you're new and you don't have a lot of experience in the aircraft that you're flying. You're going to find that you're going to be going up against some very experienced and some very skilled pilots in the DCS world.
Yeah, just
echo. Good answer.
I just echo that sentiment, by the way, because I'll tell you my own experience of that back in 2014, coming onto the server at the time, and I think it was almost by accident that I came onto the 104th server back then, flying my little A10C and striking the target areas on, I think it was Operation Able Archer, one of the classics on the Caucasus, and you fly, and then you jump on what was the TeamSpeak at the time. You jump on Discord or SRS these days, hopefully. SRS. And it can be a very daunting experience for new players. And I think you can find that on any server, but certainly when people know what they're doing. And I recall distinctly, I talk about this on my own stream all the time about, new player experience when you're listening to people talk in brevity or talking, like they sound like they know what they're talking about. It can be quite a daunting thing. So speaking up in that environment can be a challenge, but you kind of get over that and you get used to it. And as Maverick says, the PvP air-to-air element of our server is really, for me personally, kind of where the heart of our unique USP, I suppose, comes in. That it is more challenging, and I think one of the things we haven't mentioned at the moment is the no-wax environment. This is something that we've talked about a lot in other forums around the TACT tournament and the no AWACS environment that's there. We've been running that on our server for the last few months as well, where AWACS do not contribute to Link 16. Any contacts you see on your Link 16 will be fighter-to-fighter donated. So if you come into the server not used to that, you're used to perhaps looking at a SA page or a HSD page and expecting to see all the contacts dot in, it is a more daunting experience, but it's a more challenging one. And I think getting used to that, there's much greater reward out of it when you do adjust to that challenge and kind of get to master it.
Yeah, so there is no AWACS, but you do get AWACS callouts from the AWACS.
Yeah, so there is AWACS, and the AWACS will tell you on the radio. It'll give you BRA calls for the nearest bandit, and it'll give you pictures and things over the radio. But the AWACS itself does not donate to Link 16. So all the data link contacts that you get in the more modern jets that we have in DCS, all those data link contacts are coming from the fighter-to-fighter data link, or they're being donated from the ground surface-to-air missile systems with the search radars and things. And like Titan said, we've consciously went down that road to make it a little bit more challenging and also promote teamwork and really encourage people to work together, because again, not trying to throw shade on anybody that enjoys flying with data link. I enjoy flying with data link. I always have. It's been nice coming from flying the F-15C and FC3 for 7 or 8 years with no data link to finally actually having it. But there's a definitive change in the level of difficulty from having a data link screen that has everyone on it because the AWACS can see everyone, to a data link screen that only has the bandits on it that are being painted by other friendly jets. So it encourages people to work together, to talk together on comms. If no one's helping you in terms of using their radar to illuminate targets for you, you're not going to see anybody on data link. And we've had a lot of success with it. It's really re-energized our love for the good old days when we all flew the F-15C. We didn't have any data link, and it wasn't, perhaps easy is the wrong word, but it wasn't as easy as it is these days, where all you need to do is look down at a screen and you can see where everybody is. So that's one of our unique selling points for the server, is that we have a no-wax environment, that we like to call it, where the AWACS is still there, but he's only going to talk to you on the radio. He's not going to donate any contacts to you on the Link 16 network.
No, I love it from my perspective, because it happens all the time where I fly out there in a Harrier or an A-10, and then some red Air Force guy comes after me, and usually got to depend on other blue players to come help me out, and I'm usually the one crying for help. Nanny comes and saves me. Yeah,
so now in that same situation, where if you're in a Harrier or a fast jet, a faster jet, fast air, and if you're trying to sneak around the battlefield, even if the AWACS can see you, if you've got the AWACS indication on your RWR, you're not going to be on the enemy's data link picture unless one of the enemy fighters is actually painting you with the radar. So again, it just re-energizes that PvP fight, which I think the listener is probably getting the point by now. the most important things to us is providing an intense PvP arena for people to enjoy. That's our priority. Right up there with that priority is providing a stable platform to do that on, because like you said earlier on, Tricker, there's nothing worse than putting in all the hard work to either get behind someone in BFM or get yourself in a good BVR shooting position, and the only reason that the enemy has survived is because the server's warping or that player's lagging and they're jumping all over the place. So those are our two priorities: providing a high intensity PvP air-to-air arena and making sure that the platform that we deliver that on is, I mean, our goal is to be the most stable server in DCS when it comes to the actual experience that the user has. And a lot of people will see that from how stable the tankers are in air-to-air refueling, how stable all the other clients are that you're looking at when you're flying around. You're not going to see, I'm not going to say that you're never going to see it, but you're not going to see the level of warping that you see in some other servers in the 104 server because of the product that we've designed to bring to the community.
Well, I like it, and I think Nanny here has a question regarding...
Yeah, I didn't want to break the topic too much, but I was curious, since we mentioned like teamwork and support roles, like is it going to be possible for human GCIs to hop in and join the fight, or do you feel like that might actually affect the balance between the sides?
Yeah, I think we encourage it, truthfully. You know, one of the things we've loved over the years, even when AWACS was donating to Link 16, is when human GCIs jump in and are able to increase the level of kind of teamwork and coordination on a site. In this environment where the AWACS isn't giving everything, I think it's almost become a more valuable role to have a human GCI hop in and then coordinate things for people when these contacts do pop up. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Something else sorry, Bullet. Something else I noticed was the Game Master slots. Is there going to be any features connected to that? Maybe connecting to Olympus, if you guys have heard of that, about that client?
We have heard of that. It is very early days. We want to do a bit more research on that. At the moment, the short answer is no for the general public. The Game Master slots are for us as a kind of like server admin community to basically just check that the mission's running okay, or from a server admin point of view, just making sure that people aren't doing what they're not supposed to be doing, team killers and stuff like that, if anybody's doing something they maybe shouldn't do. So there is scope for that to be more involved in the community down the line, but at the moment we just use the Game Master slot as an admin tool.
Gotcha, thank you. Sorry, Bullet, you had something to say there.
Well, just with the SRS that we require on the server, we have dedicated frequencies just for human GCI. So there are slots there for the JTAC slot for someone to be in, and they have their own dedicated frequency on SRS to talk to everybody on. So when you have somebody who really wants to be involved in being a GCI or coordinator ATC-wise, they have their own dedicated frequency for that.
Awesome. So I do want to start wrapping things up here a little bit, and I do want to let the people know exactly, if you will, tell us where they can find the server. Usually it's on the latest open beta, I believe. But what can they search for to find the server? If you have a Discord server or a website or a Patreon for people to come support you.
The server's called the 104th Dedicated Server. We always host in the open beta version of DCS is where people will find us. We have a public Discord that we encourage people to get on, and so we'll make sure that, Tricker, you get a link for that you can possibly post in the video description for people to hop in and join us on Discord if they want to do that.
Awesome. And there's no Patreon or anything to come support if they want to?
Not at the moment. That is something that we've talked about, because obviously hosting servers is expensive. We actually run our server out of a data center in Kansas City. So that's something that at the moment the squadron pays for. We all contribute towards the financial cost of that. So yeah, if the time comes when we do set up a Patreon, we'll make sure that we pop some details in our Discord server for anyone who's feeling generous to help support the running costs can do so.
Cool. Well, again, I want to appreciate all of you joining us here. So 104th Bullet, Maverick, and Titanfire, they all do stream on Twitch. Usually Titanfire does TAC tournament streaming, so you can catch that on there. And you guys are on that TAC tournament as well. Aren't you guys about to be in the finals? Or
Yeah, we are in the semifinals now, and then hopefully that's next weekend, and then the weekend after the 18th, that's the finals. So
Cool.
hopefully we'll be there also.
Well, good luck to all of you there. And again, I don't think Titanfire is going to be streaming that then if you guys are in the semifinals, right?
Sadly not, no.
Right.
I think the 64th are the hosts of TACT, and they're figuring out who'll be doing what in the semi-finals. But no, I don't think I'll be there because I'll be
All right.
flying.
Well, yep, obviously. Well, I'll put all the information I can to come help and get everybody to come support you guys. And again, thank you all for joining. And Nanny, thanks for helping me out with the podcast or the video here.
Thanks for having me, Tricker.
Yeah.
No, Tricker, much appreciated. Thanks for talking with us today and letting us be able to let everybody know what's the latest and greatest that we're doing with our server.
Yeah. You guys have anything else you want to shout out or
Just
say to the people?
just a general thank you to yourself for the time, and thanks to everybody who stops by and tries it out. This is effectively the start of greater things to come, and keep with it, keep stopping by, keep checking it out, and we'll have lots more to follow.
And we're very active on our Discord, so anybody has any questions about things or ideas or comments on the server in general or any specifics, we have areas in our Discord that you can put those questions down, and we'll get to you on them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, guys.
Yeah. Appreciate it.